Hey, it's Mike Nelson with the Mike Nelson team again. Just wanted to show you guys the power of Realvolve, one of the tools that we use. This is really just helps keep agents organized and coordinated, especially when they're working with the transaction coordinator. That may be an in-house transaction coordinator. If you contract it out, they may or may not want to play with the system. But as far as in-house or just as a single agent, it's very helpful not only on the CRM side, but just keeping yourself, if you got a bunch of deals going on, this will keep you honest that you're not missing any dates, deadlines, you're putting files in here, you're putting notes in here. It's huge when you be able to go back to your client and just say, hey, we have software that most agents don't use that really keeps the process smooth, keeps it as stress-free as we can make it. You don't have to worry about us getting too busy and missing any deadlines. It's all here. So I just wanted to kind of take you through what we call the Mike Nelson team Longmont buyer transaction workflow. You'll see, one of the things we're able to work with our agents on and say, hey, there's a lot of value in a team model, but also a transaction coordinator having one that the team, in our case, the team's paying for a salary. Um, they do a lot of the work. We ran the numbers on from a team perspective, and I know on the listings for sure it was 22 hours of work by the transaction coordinator and about 7 by the listing agent in the total process from the time they got it under contract. It didn't include the lead generation time, but from the time that the contract was executed, the listing agreement until closing and showing up to closing, it was a 3-to-1 ratio on transaction coordinator time spent compared to the agent. Now, on the buyer's agent side, we'll look a little bit more at that. It's a little more involved on the buyer's agent side, obviously, because same thing here. This picks it up once they get a contract executed, a CBS or a contract to buy and sell in Colorado's language. So essentially a house under contract. So just looking at these activities, upload executed CBS, exclusive right to buy into the files. We use CTME contracts here, but instead of having our transaction coordinator having to go log into another system, basically we just have the agent attach it into a file section under that transaction in Realvolve. So agent to give transaction coordinator access to CTM. So we do give them access after the fact just so they can look at inspection objection items or contracts that come in, anything of that nature, amend, extends, counter proposals, stuff like that. Text the inspector. So again, I talked about this in one of the other videos. There's a lot of automation to this. Yeah, it's a little bit time staking to put together and takes a lot of thought. Or you can pay hundreds of dollars to use what Realvolve will give you, and then you just have to customize it. We feel like we run a really high touch client engagement with our clientele, so we certainly wanted to input a lot of our stuff. Do we have it all here? Absolutely not. But do we have as much as we can think of now? For sure. So in this case, as soon as it goes under contract, we would start a workflow, and basically it would text the inspector right then, 0 days after the start date. So right then and there, the inspector would get a text going, hey, we think our client, we gave your name out essentially as an option for them, so they might be contacting you. Text message goes out, basically says through automation, the client's name, followed by the address they're under contract by. And then it also gives the inspection objection date. All that goes to the inspector that he or she might choose, and basically just saves me a phone call from having to tell the inspector, hey, Jane Doe might be calling you. Send out CTME contract contact sheets. So that's just something we do for the lender and the closing agent or closing title, closer at title, so on and so forth. CTE change status. So I have a program called Commitment to Excellence. So they would go in and they would start, the transaction coordinators would say, hey, this agent got this house under contract on this date. It's set to close on this date. It was for this much money. The commissions are split out by A, B, and C, and those kind of things. So that's what's happening there. Then the buyer's agent would, an automatic email automatically goes out to the transaction coordinator letting them know, hey, we just got a house under contract. So the TC can pick that email up and go, cool, I've got a contract and I got to start working on this particular property. We do a Facebook page post by our marketing assistant just telling people that this agent was successful and got something under contract. We're all about our agents. Under contract text to the lender. Kind of the same thing. We just let them know. We send the CBS out to the to our buyer's lender, letting them know. Uh, the buyer's transaction coordinator will then go into Realvolve and put in all the key dates from the contract, the appraisals, the objections, inspections, the HOA docs due, all those things go into here. Because then that triggers, you see over here, all the 0 days after start date. You'll see some other ways of setting it up, like 1 day after start date, and there's just some sequential things you can build into this. Buyer steps, next email, that's just an email that we send out that basically just says, hey, it's a canned email, and then we go in and have the TCs customize it each and every time they send it out, but it'll say, hey, Jane Doe, whoever the buyer is, your next steps are, and it'll put the closing date in there, some other key dates in the email. Make sure you get your earnest money in by such and such date. Please call the inspector an inspector at your earliest convenience, blah, blah, blah. We would pause our MLS search engine in Iris or RE Colorado from Colorado's perspective. Transaction coordinator to buyer introduction video. So we actually have our TCs create a video introducing themselves. So an email goes out because our clients will be working a lot with the paperwork side of vendors and letting them know that when the inspector's coming and all those kind of things. So we want them to know virtually who they're working with sometimes when they're sending emails to somebody other than the agent. Check on inspection scheduling, so we just kind of have a reminder a couple of days after the start date. Hey, did you guys get this inspection scheduled? We'll have an appraisal check-in. 7 days after start date might be a little aggressive, but we're just trying to put reminders in here. Final walkthrough and closing time setup email. So again, these aren't sequential in the way they're laid out on the screen, but they're sequential as far as 14 days before closing date. We're going to set that all up, the walkthrough and the closing. Transaction coordinator to complete and review dot loop. That's a Keller Williams thing. So the transaction coordinators are submitting the files up about 10 days before closing. Send out review request. Again, that's for us to get credit on Zillow or Facebook or Google or wherever it is you want to get your clients to review you. We're doing that about 7 days before closing date just because we want, we feel like if people will do it before they close, they're a little less frantic than like the day of closing or the day after closing. Closing week instructions and inspection receipts is an email we send out. Agent to review the DA from the transaction coordinator. So again, Keller Williams does a disbursement authority document. So we want the agent to make sure we got the splits right and the dollars are right and everything else. Obviously, we want the agent to review the settlement statement. We would then send the DA to title and the buyer's agent so everybody can get paid, and these are 2 days before closing. TC to send buyer settlement statements to buyer's agent. Change status and CTE to closed. Add client to our post-closing campaign. So again, really the cool thing about Realvolve is we can add another campaign, so maybe it sets it up automatically for us to call them a week from their closing, a month from their closing, 6 months from their closing, 1 year anniversary, and it's just set up. So as long as we add that client to the campaign called the post-closing campaign, we don't have to do anything. We just click it, set it, forget it until we're reminded to make a quick phone call to them or send them an email. Check if closing docs have been received. Add past sell to our personal Zillow account. We know a lot of people go to Zillow, so you'll see we have, 170 transactions on Zillow or something like that, and 76 reviews or something like that. We're just big believers that people go to the internet more than any time ever, and they're looking for you and looking for your online presence. Title commitment sent to agent and client. Agent to review title commitment with buyers, and these are all happening. You see how these are all off of different days, off of title commitment due date, off of seller disclosure due date, off of earnest money deadline. You can set them for before or after deadlines. Earnest money receipt to the lender. Check HOA document status. Set an appraisal alert just to make sure that the appraiser has going out there. Appraisal objection written and submitted if required. Inspection objection alert. Inspection objection written and submitted. Have you checked in on your property insurance email? Due diligence documents. This is pretty cool. We added in a buyer's agent calls and uses I need business call script. So 4 days before inspection resolution. So about, maybe just before halfway, perhaps in the 30-day, 40-day deal, we would call and go, hey man, hopefully you appreciate the efforts that don't say it exactly that way, but basically we're just saying, hey, you know, we could always use some more business. And here's a little bit of the script so I don't totally butcher it. Hey, so and so, as you know, with the inspection resolution completed, we only have one hurdle left to clear, and that is on the appraiser. So I'm sure, as you are aware, I'll be pretty bored as we are pretty much, sorry, this is kind of choppy, done on our end. So if you know of anyone else that is looking to buy or sell real estate, I would love to help them. Do you know of anyone right on the top of your head? If no, say awesome, no problem. Um, I will make sure to check again at closing. So we're trying to touch them a couple times. Don't be shocked if you don't hear much from me for the next few days to a week, as things will be a little slow. So again, we're not trying to say we're bored, we don't have anything going on, we have no business. We're just trying to go to them and go midway through, hey, before you get crazy and before you have to start packing and everything, do you know of anybody else that needs real estate? A need? And then we hit them at closing again too. How many times have we left business on the table by not asking for, business while we're there? That happens a lot. So anyways, it's just something to check into and just kind of tell you a reminder. So everything's about reminders in these workflows. So pretty cool stuff. I'm gonna try to get back out to the other page. I don't think there was really much more in the buyer's workflow. Just wanted to kind of show you guys again a little more about it. There's 41 steps throughout the buyer's workflow, and we kind of covered them all. So anyways, hopefully that helps you, and shows you a little bit about a tool that can really streamline your business.